Our if says, if LPR stayed 182 days outside of states, is he break continuous residence? Yes. If you spend 182 days, that's a break of the continuous residence. And when you file for citizenship, there's an assumption that it's broken. You have to be able to overcome it to say, I didn't break it. I was actually residing here. Then it depends on the evidence that you submit for citizenship. So continuous residence, let me back it up a little bit to finish that. Depends on the evidence you submit, how the officer wants to deal with it, how many times you've broken residency, all the so you have to deal with that. When you file for U.S. citizenship, you have to be in the United States a fixed amount of time. There's also other regulations you have to complete. But one of the requirements is the continuous residence period, which means you're not supposed to live outside or be outside the United States for too long, or else that resets the time you have to go through to get a green card. So typically, to citizenship. So typically, if you have a green card for 5 years, you can start the process for citizenship. However, in that 5 years, you have to have spent more than half of the time in the United States, and at the same time, not been outside the United States for more than 6 months, or not have multiple trips of 4 or 5 months outside the United States. You really have to show that your life was in the United States, and any time you spent outside was these temporary kind of vacation kind of things, but you're really living in the United States and you're not breaking your continuous residence. So if you were 182 days outside the United States, they look at that and say you were outside for more than 6 months, you broke continuous residence. Then it's on you to explain how you did not break continuous residence, how you are really living in America, how do you have a house here, and how you do that is showing documents. You have a lease agreement, you have a car, you have a job, you have family members, you have utility bills, you go to the library and check out books, you pay taxes, and there's a lot more things just to show, no, my life is here. It was a temporary situation. I went out. Maybe you're out for 4 months just to see some family members, have a good time, and then coronavirus hit, and then you didn't want to get on a plane. There might be explanation, and then at the end of the day, it's up to the officer at the USCIS interview and their judgment if they think that you broke your continuous residence. So there's only so much the limits of what an attorney can do or documents can do. It goes in the hands of an officer at the Immigration Service, and if they don't want to approve it, you could then appeal it. It's called N336 for a trial to happen within USCIS for them to review and analyze it. There's more fees and more time. And in the worst case scenario, you may be able to file a lawsuit, but at that time, so much time has passed, you may be able to just reset the clock and do a whole new application for citizenship. It really depends on the facts of the situation. You have to analyze to see if it's worth it to go through all this or not. So if you had a break, I would say, contact my office. My email is info@jqqlaw.com. So we could review your travel history, and we could get all the dates, because we need all the dates for the last 5 years, and then break down each one, how long they were, get explanations of why you're out, what can we show that you're living in the United States. And I've had at times where people were out a lot, but they said okay. And it really, again, depends on the officer you deal with. Some are more cool with it than rest. But under President Trump's administration, things have gotten harder. They're looking over their shoulder. They're trying to give them a tough time on this kind of stuff. So you got to be prepared for the worst. But if you want U.S. citizenship, give it a shot. The main thing is that we want to make sure if you apply, if the citizenship case is denied, we'll file again. It's not a big deal. But we don't want them to then go back and take away your green card. So that's why consultation for citizenship is very important, to review the underlying case, to go through your history. When I get a citizenship case, we have an initial consultation first, and then we go, okay, what were you doing before you came to the United States? How did you get your work visa originally? What did you say in those applications? How did you get your green card? What did you say in those applications? What have you done since then? And what kind of interactions have you had with law enforcement, with other people, paying taxes? Voting mistakenly, or all this kind of stuff we check, because we don't want to file for citizenship and have the officer all of a sudden notice something and say, well, not only are we denying you citizenship, we're also going to kick you out of the country. So you're going to immigration court, we're going to take the green card away, we're going to ship you out. And that's the last thing we want to do. That's why we have to be very protective of the green card and make sure there's no major issues. And I had a case like this recently where someone came. It seemed like an easy case, but I said, listen, find your green card application from 5 years ago. Let's look at it. And there was one error in there, and that one error could potentially cause them to be deported. It was just a mistake. His lawyer didn't file it right, but that's his fault. And so I'm like, if we file for citizenship, they're going to say, oh, there's one error here. You lied to us. And the guy's like, it's such a minor error, but if an officer wants to, they could kick him out of the country. So I don't recommend filing for citizenship. There are waivers that could come up depending on different scenarios. So I said, for example, if you get married and have a kid here or something like that, that'll solve things. But as it is right now, you can't file because that's going to be a problem. I mean, it's up to them to file, but I would just let them know what comes down the line.